Hello, this is Matt with iGo Software. Today we are going to do a deep dive on the owner training for use of the software. We're basically going to cover everything that's available in the owner entity tier or OE tier, including basic settings, setting up group discounts, setting up security profiles, setting sources, tax categories, reviewing the emails, required field settings, adding and deleting employees, reviewing club settings, and setting up membership agreements and products. This is going to be primarily focused for OsteoStrong centers, as they will have generally the same settings for all of these things across the board. So it'll be mostly a review of what's available. Okay, without further ado, we're going to start with the OE tier. Now, when you sign up for the iGo360 software, you will be emailed a temporary password. Simply log in with a temporary password, reset it, and log in. As an owner, you will have access to this owner tier and the center or club level tier, which is basically the main operating dashboard for your day-to-day operations. Up here where you see Cleary OE, you'll have a toggle switch that will allow you to switch from your OE tier to your center or club tier. And you can simply just toggle back and forth between the two as needed. Now, most of these settings you will not spend much time on this tier. This is generally going to be covered in your initial training where most of this is set up, and you will be looking really to manage your employees from this tier, adding and removing them as needed and making adjustments to your agreement types as needed. So without further ado, let's get going. First, an overview. Basically, you have different tab buttons here that will allow you to access different settings within the program. Some of them are hot linked here. Basically, this information here is also covered within the tabs. I'd like to first talk about the reports. The reports at the OE tier are not as detailed as what they are at the club tier. These are, however, good if you own multiple centers because they will run basically comparisons between your multiple centers. So until you open a second center, our recommendation is don't use these reports. You will basically be running the reports at the club tier, and the other video we have on functioning in the club tier, we will cover some of the reports that are the best that you're going to want to review regularly. These functions over here regarding employees and viewing your clubs are going to be covered under these tabs, and we'll talk about them as we get through it. There are several areas of the program that you're just simply not going to use. For example, these reports, until you open multiple centers, they're not going to be used. The iGo360 software is designed primarily to run fitness centers, though it runs virtually any kind of membership-based business. The primary setup for it and design of it was for fitness centers. And there are some aspects of fitness center operation that just aren't used for OsteoStrong centers. And when we cover it, I'll just mention that in passing, that this is an area of the application that you won't be using. So with each tab, the club will list the clubs that you have, the employees list the employees you have, the members will list the members you have, and I'll just say right now, you will not be using this tab at the OE tier. All of your member management will occur at the center level or club tier until you have multiple centers, and you may be transferring members from one center to another. A member's home center is where the billing occurs, and the funds for that member will deposit into that center. So that's where you manage that. But again, you won't be using that until you open multiple centers. Under the items, you'll set up your membership plans and products and other services you might sell. Masters includes setting up group discounts and security profiles. The insurance company import-export that you see below there, or even the locked users, are just areas of the application you won't be using. Under users, you can set up a a master type user. That it's not really a master type user, but it's access that you might give to, say, an accountant who wants to have access to some of these reports to run some bookkeeping functions. Some centers will do that. The settings covers, there's a lot going on in settings, and we'll cover that in more detail here. Reports, again, this is basically the same set of reports that are here, and you won't be using those. And then finally, you have the back end section. Again, this is an area of the application you just won't use. There's some types of importing and exporting and things that happen here that none of the OsteoStrong centers use. Okay, so let's deep dive onto some of these and unpack them in detail. So we'll start with masters. First thing under masters, you're not going to be using insurance company imports and exports. You may, however, use the group section, and the group section is basically a group discount. And so when you're selling a membership plan, you may just elect to apply a group discount, like a military discount or AARP discount, that sort of a thing. The membership agreements are generally set up with enough flexibility to where you can account for and manually assign a discount as needed. So many centers do not use a group discount. However, if you want to add it, it's pretty straightforward. You simply click the Add Group Discount. You select your country, start date, end date. You may have an end date on it, so maybe a short promotional window. And then you add the % discount off of the enrollment fee and monthly dues. You assign it to your particular centers, and then you check active or inactive and click save. And then it's available for you at the club tier when you sell a membership. That's it for group discounts. That easy. Security profiles. These are profiles that are set up for your center, and by default you'll have a manager level profile and a restricted employee access security profile. With this and other aspects of the program, you're going to see them restricted, or you'll see them listed twice. So I have manager full access and staff restricted access security profiles here, but they're listed twice. And that is because we create them at an OE tier, and then it assigns that same security profile to each club that you have as it's created. So if you edit the OE tier, it will flow down to the other club tier security profiles, and you may end up having different security profiles for each club that you have. Anyway, that explains why they're listed twice. The security profile itself is already set up for you. As a general rule, the manager will have full access to do anything within the program, and your employee or staff security profile is set up to restrict access to financial data, financial reports, the ability to give a discount, and the ability to review complete lists of your members. Other functionalities, scheduling appointments, selling memberships, that sort of thing are all set up in here. If you want to change the club security profile for one of your employees, or for your employee profile, you can just come in here. It's fairly self-explanatory what each one of these sections means when you check or uncheck the box. And so we really haven't had to edit these any after they've been set up just in default mode for most OsteoStrong centers. However, if you come across a situation where an employee is trying to access a part of the program and they can't, that's a security profile setting, and you can come in to update it. Because this is not an area of the program that you're going to be utilizing every day, exactly where to go and how to check that off may be a little bit hard to understand. So just feel free to give us a call, or even better, just shoot us an email saying to support@igofigure.com saying, hey, look, I'm having a little difficulty trying to get this access part. Which box do I check? Either way, we're happy to help. So that's where you set it up. The user we mentioned before is simply the master user you might allow access to, and then locked users are users that you lock out, or may have actually they've been locked out, for example, for logging in too many times with the incorrect password. Again, an area of the application you're just simply not going to be messing with too much. Okay, the next area I'd like to cover is the employees. Now, this is pretty straightforward. You have a list of employees in here, and then you can add employees as needed. Now, OsteoStrong centers are unique in the way that they're set up and run. So from a high level, the program is designed as a fitness center management software, and fitness centers generally will stake out space on their calendar at the club level to schedule things to personal trainers. And so the idea of how space is blocked out on your calendar to be available to schedule against, that's based on an employee profile setting. Now, in an OsteoStrong center, you're not going to have a specific employee that delivers the service to the members. It's just going to be either a first visit or a recurring appointment, or in this case, Team OsteoStrong, and we'll explain that more later. And so what we've done is we've created employee profiles to stake out space on your calendar, first visit, recurring, and Team OsteoStrong, and you're good to go. It's already set up and configured for that. Another reason for splitting it out the way that we did, because certain employees are made available to be scheduled against both in the public calendar and in the member portal, which we'll cover a little bit more later. And that is defined with different settings. And so when we set up different appointments to be scheduled publicly available, we'll define which, quote, employee that goes against. So first visits will make publicly available for people to schedule against, and recurring appointments will make available through the member portal for your members to manage directly. So adding employee is just very simple. You're going to be doing this, and we're just going to take one of these and review Mr. Recurring Appointment here. Simply click add. It'll bring up these fields to add in. Name, address, email, phone, etc., etc. Really the only data point on this that matters is the email address. That's what their login information will be. The data is not really used for anything else other than printing on a timesheet report in terms of address and so forth. So if you don't happen to have your employee's phone number or zip code or something when you're setting it up, you can just enter dummy data and click next. Then the next spot, this will be empty right here because no club will have been assigned to your employee yet. Just click Assign Club. You select the club to assign. It'll be the one that you have. Select the security role that you're going to assign them. Select Active and click Save. Okay, and then this will appear in here and it'll be good to go. Now, some centers, not very many OsteoStrong centers, but some centers set up commissions to pay their employees. Every single product and service that your center offers, you can create a commission for them. And so all of that is generated here. If you have any questions about that, the help button within the application talks about how to assign commissions. To get there, by the way, you just simply click the question mark, and that brings up a help menu of all the help topics that are available. Advanced Employee Functions covers covers how to do the commissions. So that's the role. Bonus is the same sort of thing. It's based on different metrics within the centers, and we're not going to cover that in detail here since most centers don't use that. Finally, the drop-down menu settings. This is the part I was still mentioning before. This is what stakes out space on the calendar. These first three boxes, those govern calendar availability fields. And so we check the tasks because that's what we want recurring appointments to show up for. But we don't need recurring appointment to show up for salesperson or lead generator. So when you're setting up an employee, that's not one of your places that you're going to stake out on the calendar, you just simply uncheck these first three boxes and leave the other two checked and click Save. Okay, and then that way your calendar will be just reserved for these three columns of data. If we look at this particular employee under her user club and we look at her drop-down settings, this is what that will look like. Okay. That's it for employees. Now, on occasion, you're going to need to terminate or otherwise get rid of an employee. It's pretty easy to do. We're just going to take a look at recurring again. Couple of things you can do is you can jump over to the user clubs, go to that role, and just uncheck the active box. That'll save all of the employee data here for you. They just won't be active anymore. Okay, you want to get rid of the employee completely from your data so you're not looking at a whole bunch of old employees in here. First thing you'll do is you come to user clubs and delete the user club that's been assigned to them. Then the second thing you do is just simply delete the employee from the list. Now your ability, there'll be a red dot here to delete them, but that only appears after you've deleted the club that's assigned to them. One other thing worth mentioning here is a lot of the information that we're covering here is covered in a PDF owner's manual that was emailed to you when you signed up. It covers in detail how to add and remove employees. Okay, so we've covered masters, employees. Let's look and see what the club tab has. Oh, one other thing worth mentioning under the employees, as you grow and add more centers to own more centers, you can assign existing employees to have access to that. You just simply assign more centers to that employee. So a lot of centers will have that. They'll basically have a manager that manages the different centers, or will sometimes need an employee to work at a different center to cover a shift or something, and they just simply set up access here. That's how that's managed. Okay, under the club settings, there really isn't anything you're going to be doing in here. These settings generally, if we click the edit button, it talks about basic setup information for the club, which will be reviewed during your training to make sure everything is correct, and then you'll leave that alone. The other part that's available under the club settings are other settings that are behind this hot link to your club number. When you click it, you have all kinds of things in here that are available to review and inspect, and generally you're never going to look at this. Okay, it's worth pointing out a couple of things that are in here and will be covered during your initial training. And first is under the calendar tab. When you click this calendar tab, what this first set of settings is for, it basically will designate the time slot that appears on your calendar. So your day will start at 6 a.m. and end at 8 p.m. And some customers are like, hey, I'm never here at 6 a.m., but it's consuming space on the display. And so you can literally edit this down to where that space doesn't appear on your it just removes it from the calendar. So it's a nice setting that you might fine-tune during training. Another thing that you're going to be adjusting later as you grow is the granularity on the calendar. It sets to 5, 10, 15, 30 hour. Basically, that's how many lines are going to appear on the calendar by default. You can set it manually each time you go into the calendar. You can have a default setting for that later. Half hour is a good starting point. After you grow and get tons of appointments on your calendar, you're going to want probably 5 or 10 minute granularity to see them all as they all get stacked in there. A couple of things worth mentioning here is the public calendar link. This is a link to your personal public calendar, and we'll pull it up over here just so you can take a look at this particular example. Here's what it looks like. We got a test club in here for this particular calendar, and it has available dates appear in green, and this is what's available when you available for your center. So you will basically be hot linking that link to your emails and Facebook posts and everything else whenever you are driving people to schedule their first time appointment. That will pull up availability on your calendar, just what's available on the calendar for people to schedule a first appointment against. And we'll cover that a little bit more at on the second half of the training that talks about how to set that up and use it and get prospects to schedule their first time appointment. The other thing that's down here is this JavaScript, and well, your web developer will know what to do with that, but you really aren't going to be using a web developer. The marketing team at OsteoStrong Corporate will insert this script into your microsite, and it links to your calendar. So that will make it available to the public to go schedule first visits with your center. That's it for calendar. Accessibility. This is where you turn on and off member portal. Basically, you check it as enabled, and there are a few check boxes here that will be set up for you. For OsteoStrong centers, this will be configured and set up so that your members will have the ability to log in and manage their recurring appointments. That's the primary function there. They can also update their billing settings by adding a new payment method, other things like that. And this is sort of set up like the security profile. These different areas of the member portal will become visible or not based on what you check. There's a separate video that discusses this, a little 15-minute video in more detail on how to set this up and get it going. If you haven't already, discusses it in more detail. For all OsteoStrong centers going forward, their training will cover this, and this will be enabled and available for employees to members to manage their own appointments. Idea of that simply is the more that you can push to your members, the less time that you have to have your staff managing that effort. Other things of the club tier that's also covered in the PDF manual are the billing settings. See this button here, Edit Payment Gateway Settings? Never touch that. There's a series of credentials that are in there that basically process your payments and deposit them into your bank account. They're set up for you, so there's nothing to manage there, and you never want to change those. Okay, next tab to discuss is the settings. And there's a lot going on in this tab, and we'll basically cover it all. You'll start with sources. There's a default set of sources that will appear here and are available whenever you're setting up a prospect or selling a membership. You can select the source on how they've heard about your center. Some things we've added here specialized for OsteoStrong centers. And we got X3 bar demo, UPW, bulletproof coffee guy Dave Asprey has been talking about, has done a podcast on OsteoStrong. This will give you some granularity and visibility into how your members are hearing about your center. In the beginning rush, you may not quite get into refining this so much, but as you get going, you're going to really want to know where your members came from, and so you can target your marketing efforts better. And this is where you set all that up. Pretty easy. Just add source. Whenever you're ready to add a source, you can create and type in whatever you want, and it will be available at your club levels to manage. Next thing, critically important to manage here, is the tax category. It's important to make sure you have this set up correctly, because if you do not collect and remit the required sales tax in your state or area, the tax man will knock on your door and ask you to, and they're not so nice. They're not mean, but the news that they deliver is not so nice. And so if you're not collecting the sales tax you should be collecting from your members, it's difficult to almost impossible to go back in time and collect that from them. So be sure that the correct amount is set up here. You'll note that we have some that are set up as a master level. As the OsteoStrong empire expands, you'll see different settings that are available here. You're going to want to add the one that's for your specific center just by clicking Add Tax Category. When you go through training, this will already be set up for you. Your job is to double check it and make sure it's correct. Okay. That's the tax category. The next is that we're going to cover in here is required field settings. And just let me review some of these other ones right quick. Regional settings involve things like time zone, the address format. There'll be an international typical address format and a US typical address format. All of these are already set for you. First billing date is basically how far out you can push the first date that somebody's going to pay you when you're setting up a membership agreement, and that's generally set by default out a year for some reasons that are covered on the club level training video. Billing frequency, you're set up for a month. That's all completely customizable. There's the address settings I mentioned. Grace period is how long somebody has to pay you if you're invoicing them instead of collecting via credit card or ACH transaction, and that's default to 7 days. Sources we've already covered. Tax categories we've already covered. Email templates, let's see, let's look at the rest of these ones you won't be messing with. Email templates, that's basically where you can create your own custom email template and have it available to send later, and that's easy to do at the club tier, and we'll cover in the club tier video training. It's not something that you're going to do a lot of, but when you see it, it's actually probably not going to do it much at all, but when you see it, it's just nice to have and know what that is. I'll talk about email notifications in a second. Business defaults, that's a setting that you're just really, there's nothing going on here. You're not going to change. Locked, that's how long a user is locked out after they enter the incorrect password. And this is a user becomes deactivated after a certain period of inactivity. Again, settings you're not going to be fooling around with. Welcome screen settings are managed at the club level. We'll cover that at the club level video training. Required field settings. These are the spots that you have to enter. There's a little red dot by them whenever you're entering a prospect or a member. So email, birthday, phone, and these are things that you're just going to make required. For sure, email. For sure, phone. There's another checkbox in here for duplicate email addresses. What happens is you're gonna have email required, and then you're gonna have people that just won't give you an email address, and so you're gonna use like no email at noemail.com, that kind of thing. First, I recommend you make it at least a unique email address. The more repetitive no emails at noemails.com tends to muck up the database a little bit. So, but this will allow you to enter dummy email addresses as required. I recommend against it, but it's something that comes up a lot, so that's what happens. The reason why the duplicate's allowed is because you'll often get many, couples or families or something that all have the same email address. They'll have like a family email address, and so that will allow you to use the same email address for them. The experience when they log into the member portal is it'll allow them to log in. It'll just say, we'll click which person you're logging in as, and then access is granted. So that's what's going on with the required field settings. Next one, let's look at the email notifications. This is an extremely robust area of the program, and basically what happens is the program is going to generate and send automatically emails on an occurrence of about 50 or 60 different events in the program. So things like appointment reminders, emailing invoices, that sort of a thing is all governed in here. Now, all of these emails are all set up for you for OsteoStrong centers. They're all set to with text and verbiage and logos and things that work for you. And so, and the ones that you're not going to be using are turned off. That's really about it. And so if their monthly payment does not go through, for example, they get their monthly payment failed notification, and it asks them to contact the center to update that payment information. These are covered in the training in general, but we'll cover it a little bit more here. Basically, you can go in and edit these to say whatever it is that you want. Okay. And so, for example, when member portal is disabled, we'll just take a look at what that email looks like. Here it is. It's got a logo. You'll see that it's just grabbing data elements from the member record and dropping them into the email to personalize it a little bit. And that's it. You can come in and edit it and click save. Change it to whatever you want. You may put a hot link in here to your microsite, or really anything that you want. You can upload imagery here. This text editor is like any other text editing type program. You can change fonts. You can insert pictures. Just upload whatever imagery that you want here. If you might have a different, whatever you need, you just click the upload button and allow you to insert it. All pretty straightforward editing. It's all set up for you and good to go in terms of OsteoStrong centers, but you may, after your center gets up and running, want to spend an hour or so reviewing these just to tweak them a little bit. Okay. It's divided into several categories, and let's finish looking through the member one so you know what's going on. A statement, let's start at the top. Payment did not go through, that's one. Login information, that goes to your members and to you if you click the forgot password. This emails a copy of the statement if they're a statement member not paying you with a credit card but are instead being invoiced. When portal is enabled, this is emailing them the login information to access the portal, and the other one doesn't have that information. They're both checked as active, and it's just going to send either one depending on whether you have the member portal enabled. The default setting for that for new OsteoStrong centers going forward is to enable the member portal, so they'll be able to access it. If you don't want it turned on and manage that directly, then all you do is disable it, and you'll know to get the correct email. So that's why there's two different welcome emails. Birthday email, it sends on their birthday. Credit card expiring, their credit card's about to expire, it will send that. There's some other ones you might consider, anniversary of their join date, that sort of thing. As a general rule, because OsteoStrong centers have weekly recurring appointments, and the members will get email once a week from you for those, we kind of took the approach of fewer is better at the beginning, and then as you become a little bit more familiar with your membership base, you might add or turn on some more of these if you think it might be helpful. A great series of emails to consider that I highly recommend is this section right here. Basically, it's a customizable set of emails. It's kind of set up like a drip campaign where you schedule 5 emails in addition to the welcome email that will generate and send to the members at certain date intervals. And so this by default is set up at 14, 30, 90, 180, and 365 days. And we'll just take a look at one of those right now. What it allows you to do is create a schedule of emails that you can send to your members. And the value of that is you may have different messaging you want to communicate with them over time. And it's fixed, it's static, and so you'll set it up and it's just going to run, and not necessarily, it's not going to change unless you edit it particularly later. But you'll know that your members will be touched and communicated to you with this email on this interval. And so to set it up, it's simply, oh, I want this send day interval. That's going to be the interval after the day that the member was entered into the system. And so it'll be 90 days. Okay, and you can edit that to whatever you want. By default, your system for OsteoStrong centers will be set up to where this 90-day email is being sent. Okay, and that's just a greeting, a check-in, impressed with results, and it's pinging the members to send some referrals. As an OsteoStrong center, and really most fitness centers on the planet, most of the members, at least a majority, more than 50% of members, come from other member referrals. And so this whole series of emails is a great tool to establish that, create a venue and a reminder for your members to shoot you an email or forward the email to get you some referrals. And so that's what this one does. Forward this email as many as you like for 2 free sessions. And that's it. So that's my pitch to turn these on. Like I said, by default, we will have this set up for you to where this one in particular is turned on. The rest is going to be, well, that's going to be up to you to review and implement as you see fit in your center. So any questions about that, let us know. It's one that I think is a very powerful tool. Prospect emails. So same sort of thing here. When you add a prospect, then they can get an initial email for being a prospect, and then you can set up a series of 3 emails after that can help close them as a sale. Now for OsteoStrong centers, this tool is by default turned off, and the reason for that is that there's just a lot of powerful marketing focused programs, drip campaigns, click funnel type programs that are available that a lot of different centers are experimenting with, and that's generally how they're going to manage their prospects. And so the way we've more or less defined this program as this is a membership management platform. And so we generally will take over once that first appointment is set for a prospect. So you will find a constant contact or other type of a program. And so to manage all of your, I call them just kind of a shotgun blast of leads, you'll be at a trade show or an event where you have a fishbowl and you're just collecting leads and leads and leads and leads and leads that have not been to your center yet. And you're going to want to manage those in something like a constant contact, so you can create some newsletter content and other types of click funnels to send them, all geared towards getting them to schedule that first appointment with you. So when you do that, that's where we take over. So all of that campaigning that you'll do in whatever system that you're going to manage that in will drive them to schedule your first appointment here, this public scheduler that's available. And then once they're there, we capture them as a prospect and they're in the system as with their first appointment. And that's going to result in a close rate of anywhere from 50 to 70%. That's kind of the average range we see on close rate after a first appointment. So if you're not getting that, be sure to contact some folks for some help on how to better refine your script so that you can get a better close rate. So anyway, that's why these are checked off as not active. But like the membership emails, if as you get into the operation of your center, you start thinking to yourself, yeah, I get it, but I'm going to want these to generate and send to my prospects because I know they're going to have had their first appointment in there. I might set this up as a 14 or 21 day reminder email to ping them. If they've been converted to a member, of course, they won't receive it. They won't be a prospect anymore. But if they haven't, then they'll still be in here getting emails from you. Something to consider. Other emails that you have, PT services, so that's personal training service emails. OsteoStrong centers don't do that, but that's where you set up and define those. Those are turned off by default. Course emails, the same thing. So those are a series of reminder emails for course type schedules. Not that we don't use any of those in OsteoStrong centers. Billing receipts emails, that's pretty self-explanatory. When the billing event is created, it sends them a receipt. One you may consider turning on, and it's entirely up to you, is you have a recurring monthly dues from your members. And they get that you can elect to send them that receipt after their payment is successfully processed. So some centers do that, some don't. It just kind of depends on the membership base. OsteoStrong centers, because you have weekly scheduled appointments with your members, they know they're getting billed, so it's not that big of a deal. So you can turn it on or turn it off at your leisure. Easy enough. Inventory email, that's like a little reminder email it sends to you if you're tracking inventory of products in your specific centers. It's a reminder to reorder. Club emails, these are ones that OsteoStrong centers don't typically use. They're like reminder emails, note to self, hey, this stuff's going on. So these transfer in and out members, that's one that's automatically turned on. Or when you expand your OsteoStrong centers as they transfer from one to the other, you get an email when that occurs. Another one that's kind of potentially useful to turn on, it's not turned on by default, that you might want to consider, is if a member does not show up for more than 15 days. Okay, if they're not showing up, they're not getting the benefits of osteogenic loading, and they're at risk of being lost as a member. Now, OsteoStrong centers, because they're scheduled to come in weekly, and the scheduling component, features that we have, do a lot to let you know when you have no shows. You really don't need this turned on. But, if at some point you think, yeah, I'd like to get that reminder email just to make sure I'm on top of the folks that aren't showing up, you just check it, make it active, and send you a nice little reminder email. Additional services, we don't use those in OsteoStrong, so no emails related to that. Those are generally for scheduling those. And finally, task emails. These are reminders for first visits and consultations and appointments that they're sent. All things that you can edit in here at your leisure. Okay, so that's it for the email notifications. Lots going on in there. Again, it's one of those types of things that is set up for you, but you're going to definitely want to take a peek at it after a few months of operations and just check them out and see what other personal tweaks you might want to add to those emails. Okay, last thing to cover in here is tasks. Again, another good news point for you OsteoStrong centers. All of these are already set up and optimized for you, but it's worth reviewing them so you know a little bit about what's going on in case you ever want to tweak them later. So basically, you have a series of default tasks then here, and there's a lot of settings that you can adjust within that task. Some of these you won't use. Outbound, inbound, email. These are like appointments you would schedule on your calendar that we found that most people just cover in a note, and so it's not necessary. So deep dive on what these things look like. For an OsteoStrong Center, you have a tour, online tour appointment. That's the one where people, members, or prospects will schedule their first visit from your public calendar. And then you'll have this first visits that you schedule within the club. A lot of centers will schedule a second kind of first visit with their center, and so by default that's set up for you. Then your recurring appointments are covered under the appointment setting. Notes is like a virtual sticky note that you'll use on your calendar to give notes to self or to other employees to do stuff. Okay, well, let's deep dive on this appointment. We'll take a look at what it is. Now, there's a lot of settings in here that you can play around with. Again, good news for OsteoStrong centers. It's all optimized and set up for you already based on what other OsteoStrong centers are doing, but you can tweak them as needed. Name, appointment. This is the employees against whom you can schedule this appointment. So appointment is used for recurring appointments, and it goes against the recurring appointment column on your calendar. You won't be able to schedule it under first visit or team OsteoStrong. It's brown. You can adjust those colors if you want. Generally recommend against it because they're all kind of a default setup, but some people don't like brown, so you can create and adjust the duration of those appointments. 10 minutes is recommended for the recurring appointments. This, of course, is active. Show on portal means it's available to members in their member portal to be able to manage. So they'll see it and they can make adjustments and reschedule those appointments as needed. Note, and we'll cover this at the club level training video, the time windows that they can move that around are you get to dictate those, and so it's not them running around willy-nilly on your calendar scheduling whenever they want. It's only during available times. And how many can be scheduled at the same time is set to a limit of 3. Okay, and so we found that generally with people, time limits for showing up appointments, that sort of a thing, a center can handle up to 3 at any given time on Spectrum equipment. So as you grow and are refining your efficiencies, you may bump that to 4, or you may move that to 2, just depending on how things go in your center. Available to public means it would be something available to schedule here on the public calendar. This public calendar is limited to only the first time appointment, and so we will not make that available here. This one won't be available. Scheduling limit, 1 per day. What that is actually it reads the IP address and will allow somebody to schedule one of these once a day from that IP address. So basically, it's more for the public calendar thing. It prevents Russian bots from coming in and hammering on it. Require prior notice. That you might do if you don't want people, for example, setting the appointment, the same day or an hour before making those changes. For recurring appointments, that, really you'll find doesn't matter too much, and so they can change it around up to the time of if they want. This setting here, autocomplete, another important one to fully understand and appreciate is how the calendar handles that appointment once it passes. Now, so when you have a recurring appointment, what this will be set up is to autocomplete at appointment time. Autocomplete if member scans in. And so your 3 options on here is do nothing, So when the time comes and goes on the calendar, if nothing happens, then the appointment is checked off or is marked as a no-show, and it appears in red on your calendar. And that's how you know if you have a no-show or not. Here, for your recurring appointments, your members will have been assigned a key tag at this point. Get one of those handy-dandy OsteoStrong fobs. They'll scan into the software when they show up, and it checks them off as having attended appointment. That means autocomplete if member scans in. So if they scan in within an hour of their appointment, they're checked off as having completed that appointment. If they don't, then the appointment shows up as red. That's how you're going to manage your no-shows. The other one is you can just have it autocomplete at that time. So if the time comes and goes, then it's automatically checked off as completed. Some clubs like that. I don't, because you don't really know if somebody showed up or not. So better to track your no-shows to have autocomplete on scan-in. Now we'll click save on this one. For first-time appointments, like this first visit or second visit, that setting will be set to none because they won't have a tag to scan in with at that point. And so when at the club level video that we'll cover this later, when a person comes in, you'll manually check them off for that appointment so they're not showing up in red, and you'll know that they showed up. So that's how the settings for these tasks work. Now you can go in, you now are armed with enough knowledge to go in and adjust these settings as needed. Again, something we recommend against, but things you're probably going to want to adjust. Time for the first time appointment. Maybe have a club limit on these. This is you're only allowing one a day at that time slot, so you can only have one person sign up at a time for the first time appointment on your public calendar. Okay, which is really what you want to do. You don't want 5 people doing a first time appointment at the same time. But you might want to have more availability. It just really depends. But this is what's recommended based on how the other centers are operating. And this one requires prior notice because that just makes the most sense for somebody scheduling one publicly. So that's really it for the task settings. Normally at this point I'd ask if there are any questions, but it's a video, so I can't ask you for any questions at this point. The next thing we're going to cover, let me make sure I've got everything. Task, required field, text, source, good. Covered all of that. Good. Items. So we're going to have items. Here's what we're going to do. Basically cover all this stuff real quick. It's going to take us about another 5 or 10 minutes, and then we'll be wrapping up this portion of the training. The system is set up to create categories of membership plans and categories of inventory items. And when you think about it, if you have like a really big YMCA or something using this platform, they may have a gazillion different types of membership plans. Or if there's they just have a store or pro shop where they offer a gazillion different products. Having them categorized by colors and things allows you to narrow down the choices to make the signing up of a membership plan or an inventory item easy. OsteoStrong centers and most smaller fitness clubs, they really don't need a bunch of different categories. So we have one set up for each of those. I think we call it here, it's just called OsteoStrong. Well, I don't even have it set up in here yet. So we're going to add OsteoStrong for this center as their membership category, and it's going to be active. Note that you can allow in any club scan-in and transfers here as you expand your OsteoStrong empire. You'll check that off, and so the clubs they can access, the member can access any club. Anyway, we're going to leave that unchecked for now, and now it's available. The other category is inventory categories. Again, you're just not going to have any, so we create one that just says general and assign a color, and that's all you're going to need. Okay, so we've set up our membership category, and now we're going to look at membership plans. One of the things you're going to notice in here, there's a bunch in here for Australia, and essentially the way the system is designed is to have uniform plans across each country. In the United States, it hasn't been fully implemented yet, but it will be. In Australia, it's fully implemented. And so we see these on here, and to simply narrow down to your country, you select country and click search. We're going to tweak that a little bit so it defaults to just your country and you won't see those. And so by default, the membership plans for OsteoStrong centers, you need to spend a little bit of time thinking about what you want to offer. But generally, you're going to have a core plan with spectrum and vibration plate, and then premium plans offering different services you might have in your center, like PEMF mats or hydromassage or other services that you may be offering that are available to you as a franchisee. And so we cover this in the initial training to review the membership plans that you have and to review the pricing. Generally, we'll start with the core if we haven't heard from you on that at the time of the center setup. And so we're going to go from there. Like the tasks, membership plans have a bunch of different, levers and settings and things you can set on it. But again, good news, OsteoStrong centers are very uniform in how they do this. And so they're generally set up for you. So to add a membership plan, really aren't going to be doing that after your initial training, because we'll set up the membership plans you're going to be selling and go from there. And so you click add. In this case, we're just going to click edit, and it will pull up all of the settings for a membership plan. So plan name, we'll just start with that. It's what you want to call the plan. It appears on your customer's invoice, so you don't want to have anything too terribly goofy in there. The description does not, so you can write whatever you want. If you were to sell membership plans from your website, which you can do in our program, it's just not something any OsteoStrong center does. This description would appear on the website, so that's really it. And generally, I'll throw some notes in here during setup that will define exactly what core is offering. Just so you have the notes that you can see. Oh, this is spectrum and biplate. One thing you have available here is normal and punch card. All agreement types in iGo360 for OsteoStrong centers are going to be normal, which means they're billed a recurring payment. You do not want to set up punch card membership types. Restate that. You do not want to set up punch card membership types. Yes, you will have a member ask for a punch card type of an agreement, which is essentially, like it says, hey, you get an electronic punch card agreement. They punch it for each unit of attendance that they have, and it will say, tell them a 10-pack, they get down to 0, and then you're going to have that rebill them for that. It's not recommended for many reasons, for two big reasons. One is it makes their attendance inconsistent. They come in whenever it's convenient and not when it's on schedule, and so they're not getting the full benefits of osteogenic loading by doing it weekly as needed. But number two, more importantly, is you'll set up a punch card agreement and they're not billing on a regular recurring basis. It's really just based on usage. And so if they're just, not showing up, take the vacation to the Greek Isles, whatever, then they're not paying you. And you're going to be looking at your member count going, oh, sweet, I've got, 500 members. But if you highlight and sell a punch card agreement, you can have several hundred punch card agreement members that just simply aren't paying you. And so it's an inconsistent cash flow, and that's an inconsistent cash flow that may never generate cash flow, yet they're being counted as a member. And so my urgent recommendation is to not do that. Now, how you're going to handle the sale of those one-offs, that's a little different. We cover that at the club video as part of the training. But basically, you're going to set them up as a prospect, and you're going to sell them a single session product each time that they come in. And that just makes that way easier to manage and keeps your member data clean. You're not going to have members in there that are punch card type members that really just, are not good members in terms of consistent revenue for your center. Okay, so that's my pitch on why you never want to use that. Anyway, when you come to set up a member, you're gonna put in some settings here, your country, because certain owners will own different centers straddling, Canada, United States, that kind of thing, more frequent in Europe. they'll set up plans that are different by country because they'll have different currencies and payment amounts. So we have that setting on here. Your membership category we set up as OsteoStrong. You're going to do recurring, and for most part monthly rebilling. You can actually set up to do fortnightly, that's every 2 weeks, but everybody uses monthly recurring billing. The term is going to be recur no end date, and that's the basic setup settings for that. You're going to be thinking you want prepays or thinking that kind of a thing. My suggestion is to not do that, and I'll explain more at the club level when we do that training. But basically, you can handle a prepay with this agreement set up by collecting more dues up front when you're checking out. So if they want to prepay for 6 months, fine, take their money, set that next payment date for them 6 months out, and they'll just prepay you for 6 months, and their membership will continue after that on a month-to-month basis. So something for you to consider. Anyway, for the pricing, this is your pricing. When you sell a membership and check this membership plan, it'll default to this price for the enrollment fee or sign-up fee, and this price for the amount of recurring dues. The floor price that you set in here is how low can you go? It's the limbo of the iGo360 program. And your employees and you will be able to edit that price down here. So you set that floor here. Most centers will often have a grand opening special or some other kind of special that they routinely offer, and so we'll set that enrollment floor price at 0. I'd say about a third of the centers won't sign up anybody at least without getting something, and so you will define that here during our training. I invite you to give you some thought on that before we are training so we can set that up when we go through your training. Taxes, well, that's just whether you have to charge a sales tax on the sign-up fee and the monthly dues. It varies by state, so you'll have set up your tax rate here and assign it here, and we review that during the setup. Just make sure you get that right. And then monthly recurring dues here, again, you can set a floor price here. When I mentioned during the group discount setting that you may or may not consider, because you can build in flexibility just to knock a few bucks off on on the sign-up fee and the monthly recurring due, it generally replaces the need to give a group discount. Some people put it in because it shows up on the receipt as a group discount and makes the person feel like, oh, sweet, I'm getting the military first responder discount. So you might want to put it there. It's really up to you. Most people don't. Most OsteoStrong centers don't. The number of members allowed is the number of members allowed on that membership. So if I'm selling a core membership, I'm allowing 1 member under that. If you create a family or a couples membership, you might allow 2 or more members to sign up under that membership. OsteoStrong centers don't sell those. Don't go down the path of thinking I need to do a couples membership or a family membership. It just creates more membership plans for you to offer and can sometimes confuse the offering to the members. The easiest way to do that is simply say, yeah, and for each family member that joins, we waive or discount the enrollment fee. That's it. That's what we recommend. That's the easiest and also generates the most revenue for you because you'll lock in that recurring membership dues rate for them. I also like to suggest to people that the spousal referral that you're going to get inevitably from the wife that joins, they'll be dragging their husband in. That's going to be a hot lead, and so that's one you're going to have a high closing percentage on. So the need to discount that is going to be less because of that. So that's my pitch on not using the min-max. Another thing is I've reviewed the data for all the centers. This membership type right here, core, monthly, recurring, cancel anytime, makes up 90% of the membership sold in all OsteoStrong centers worldwide. So most of them are going to land right here. That's it. So try not to get stuck on coming up with a quirky, creative membership plan idea. This is where your wheelhouse is, and this creates the best recurring revenue stream, membership revenue stream for you. Okay, so the last points on this, valid date. Some franchises will maybe offer a special membership plan that's available for a certain time period and then it expires. None of the OsteoStrong centers do that, but if you did, that's where you would set it, making it active for sign up. That's that checkbox there, and active for online sign up means it would be available for a person to go to your website and buy online. Again, no OsteoStrong centers do that. If you're thinking you want to try that, I recommend creating just a separate membership plan called, online sign up, and do something like a 3-month special or something like that and play with that. Again, no OsteoStrong centers are doing that, just FYI. So I can't remember if I changed that or not, so we edited and saved it. That's it for the membership plans. Pretty easy to set up and manage those once you know your way around what's going on in the membership plan settings. But once you're set up, they're there. And once you edit them, they're there. Now, another caveat I want to say about the membership plans is when you set them up, if you look at our list, let's look at country, United States, search. We'll have it here. It's set for this center, the one location that they have. When they add more locations, they'll have it under here as a second center where that membership plan is available. The reason that's important is because tax rates and other things can vary at the club level. Okay. And so what does that mean to you? Well, if you have this plan set up here, it's set up at the OE tier. It populates down to the club level when it's set up. Okay. After that, the changes to the membership plan you make at the OE tier, the only one that populates and will translate down to the club tier is the floor price. Okay. And so if I set it up, then I come in to make changes to this plan. I'm like, oh, I want to change the floor price. Then each club that you have, the floor price will be updated. Okay. You say, oh no, I want the enrollment fee to be $179. If you change it at the OE tier, it won't change at the club tier. Same with the tax rate. If you, oh no, that needs a sales tax rate at the, you change it at the OE tier, it doesn't change at the club tier. And the reason for that is taxes can vary in the different clubs that you have because one might fall in different taxing jurisdiction by city or county or something else. And you may have slightly different pricing for your centers. And that's just the way it is. And so if you're making changes to this enrollment fee or the tax rate, just make sure you double check at the club level under the settings tab that the membership plan that they pop the price that you want populated down to the club. And I can tell you prices to enrollment fee change price, dues change price, and tax rate will not populate down to the club level, so you want to make sure you change those at the club level. Okay, so that covers membership plans. That covers item category and item plans. Session category, that's set up for personal training sessions, and you won't be using that as an OsteoStrong center, but it's the same sort of thing. You'll create sessions or packs of sessions, and you can go sell them. Some centers are testing different products in their centers where they may end up selling them as separate items. Sessions are designed to be sold and then scheduled. So my invitation to you is if you're playing around with that, trying to think of the best business offering for a test product you might be trying and are thinking about having it a paid scheduled event on your calendar, just give us a call. We'll help you think through that and explain how that sets up and works so you can bill for that correctly. The last one here is additional services. Now, the way to think about these are monthly recurring add-ons, hence the name additional service, that you might add to an existing membership plan. So you have a member join, they're going to be like core, for example, and then they're going to have some extra service that they may buy. Now, most OsteoStrong centers sell their extra services within a membership plan, and so you'll have the core plan that has spectrum and vibration plate, and then I have a gold plan that has spectrum vibration plate plus hydro massage and PEMF. Okay, and that'll be a separate membership plan, and that's what we recommend for OsteoStrong centers. The one additional service that we've added that you're going to want to do is called a rate lock or annual rate lock fee. Now this is a carryover and really an idea from fitness centers. You'll have some fitness centers, they'll say, hey, great, come in, join, you get your rate, our monthly fee is X. And then to lock in your monthly fee, you pay a one-time annual fee of a few dollars, and that means that we'll never raise your monthly dues. Okay? Now, why do people want to do that? Well, first thing is you're going to be discounting and offering discounts on occasion, particularly maybe during a grand opening or a grand opening period for you. Okay? And you're going to raise your price later. Okay, and you're going to have the quandary of, well, how am I going to deal with my existing loyal customer base that helped me build this business? Now, my recommendation is, well, you got really two things, is set the expectation for them on the front end. Hey, your price is going to go up when our price goes up. And then they'll know that they're exposed to that and go from there, so that when you do raise your prices, you're not going to get any blowback and a bunch of cancellations. The other thing that most people just don't do that. They're not managing that expectation on the front ends because there's a risk of it cooling the sales effort. And so what great alternative for you is to create and sell with your memberships an annual rate lock fee. And this is where you set up that particular item. Basically, it's the add-on to the membership sales that you're going to add when you're checking out. And the way you present that to the customer is simply, hey, you're getting a great deal on this membership. We're probably going to raise our rates as we add more services and things. The good news for you is we're not going to raise your rate when you pay this annual rate lock fee. And you manage that expectation when you sell the membership. Great. And the way most centers do this is they'll set the rate lock fee. They'll tell them, yep, we only charge it once a year on December 15th. It's $39, $29. It just really varies depending on what you think the market bears, but $39 is about average of what most of them will charge. And you go from there. You set the fee when you're selling it, and we cover this in the club level video in the second video. When you sign up, you set it to bill on December 15th each year. That's it. And so you tell your member, hey, this is what we're going to do. It's going to be charged on the 15th. You sell the agreement on checkout, and we'll cover that in that other video, and then you're done. And then on the December 15th of each year, the annual rate lock fee is billed. Now, what that does for you is really what it does is it creates additional revenue that you're able to get off of an existing member without having to raise the price. Because for most people, coming back and raising the price for their existing membership base is hard, and they're worried about the risk of losing members. They find it easier to just charge the annual rate lock fee, and that's how it goes. Other benefits for that are you get a spike in revenue each December. So for December vacation or holiday spending, you get additional revenue for that number times your membership base. One other thing I like to suggest here with that is when you're selling the membership, tell them that when they join OsteoStrong, that gets them 51 weeks of osteogenic loading a year. Why do you want to say 51 weeks when there's 52 weeks in a year, Matt? Glad you asked. That's because many centers will close down during the Christmas week. And so when you sell the membership on the front end, this is one more expectation management that you're going to have for your members. Just tell them, yeah, your membership fee gets you 51 weeks a year. Why 51? Because we close during Christmas week. Now you have built in a 1 week vacation a year, and you're being paid extra money each year during that week to fund your vacation. You can thank me later. And that wasn't my idea, by the way. It was on the OsteoStrong Facebook user group. I think the Harpers are the one that came up with that idea. But they found that when they manage the member expectation on sign up to 51 weeks a year, when they decide to close, the members already know that, and so you don't have people feeling gypped having lost a week during December. Okay, we've covered a lot. It's been an hour, but this has been a heads down, feature rich, covering it all hour of time where we really drilled down into every aspect of the owner tier of the program. So we're going to task you with watching this video before your training, and then when we do training, we're just going to spend 5 minutes on it with any questions you have, and then reviewing your agreement types when that's set up. So anyway, thanks for your business. Thanks for being a customer. We appreciate you. Look forward to doing your training later. I'd bookmark this video later. It's a great video to help you get through some other aspects of the program if you're visiting them later. The other thing you can do is just simply check that PDF guide. It's also came out. It's good written content of generally the same material that we've covered here today. Look forward to talking with you more later, and you have a good day.